Namaste.
Namaste, welcome.
Welcome to our weekly online global Satsang. And for anyone who's new, Satsang is Sanskrit for community of truth. What draws us together is that we're all seekers or finders, as it may be, on the path of truth. We're all involved in the process of the flowering of the heart. We come from different countries, different traditions, spiritual backgrounds, different teachers, different masters. But what brings us all together is we're experiencing awakening to our true nature, which is unconditional love and divinity unfolding, flowering in the heart. And we've come to realize the importance, the essential importance of connecting with others who are on this same journey, who are experiencing the same phenomenon of the flowering of consciousness and the unfolding of inner divinity and unconditional love. It's a beautiful journey. It's a unique journey for each and every one of us. Even if we belong to the same spiritual group and teacher, we would find that our unique personal journey is unique to us. But we share common features. We all, over the years and months, go through similar experiences. It's very important to share together our breakthroughs as well as our struggles. When we come together and join our energy, join together in meditation, as we just spent a few minutes in silence, the presence, the energy, the inner silence that we've been cultivating in our own spiritual path is multiplied exponentially by joining together with others. And it strengthens us. So welcome. We're sharing with you throughout this webcast something called the Flowering Heart Blessing. Hridaya, Vikasa, Deeksha in Sanskrit, which simply means Flowering Heart Blessing. It's a transmission directly from the divine source that catalyzes within you the awakening of the divine energies within your heart, and the beginning of awakening to your true nature, which is oneness with the divine, which is pure unconditional love and genuine compassion. It melts the illusions of separate existence and so many other obstacles to experiencing the present moment as it is. When we do, it's bliss. We need help to awaken. Most of us have discovered that we're powerless to awaken ourselves. There's nothing the ego could do through its own efforts to dissolve itself. That's where grace comes in, and the assistance of the divine presence itself. The Flowering Heart Blessing is a transmission of divine light and grace, consciousness, energy, specifically for the purpose of catalyzing awakening, of removing blocks, facilitating and speeding up that process. And if you're an awakened being, taking you into deeper and deeper states. And because there's no end to the journey that we're on, it's an infinite path. There's always something new just ahead. The Flowering Heart Blessing, because it comes directly from the divine source, it's not filtered through any spiritual tradition or religion or particular organization or spiritual master. It comes directly from the divine to you to support whatever path you're on, be it Hindu, Buddhist, pagan, Christian, Taoist, you name it. The Flowering Heart Blessing will support you in that path and make it come alive for you. So we joyfully share this blessing with you and invite everyone who's with us tonight on this webcast, if you're a blessing giver of whatever kind, if it's a divine blessing to catalyze awakening and the flowering of the heart, please join us in sharing the blessing. Most of you are already Flowering Heart Blessing givers simply by having participated with us in these satsangs, because right now you're soaking in the power of the Flowering Heart Blessing. And it will continue non-stop throughout the entire satsang. And it's activating you, it's energizing and initiating you to be a Flowering Heart Blessing giver yourself. And you can give this blessing by the laying on of hands, by touch. You can give it by intention, through prayer or meditation at a distance. Perhaps as the blessing and your connection to the divine deepens, you might begin to experience and become a vessel of open eye light blessing, which we sometimes call open eye light meditation or flowering heart light meditation. We'll be doing that at the end of our satsang tonight. So if you don't know what that is, just hang around for a while. If you go to our website, floweringheart.org, there's a 36-minute initiation video that's really quite powerful for the Flowering Heart Blessing. You don't need to do it, you're getting it right here. But if you'd like to know a little more and just steep in this energy a little bit more at a deeper level, that 36-minute initiation is there on our website. You just click on it and you can watch it over and over and over again. If you'd like to start a blessing group yourself, you could play that video, and everyone that joins with you would experience and come to understand the power of divine blessing, and they themselves would be initiated without you feeling uncomfortable that maybe you're not ready to talk about it or explain it. Also, there's a lot of information about every other aspect of the path of awakening, many online courses you can access there, and a real deeper description of the flowering heart light meditation, the open eye light meditation. So please avail yourself of the information on that website. At this time, is there anything I forgot? Well, we're just beginning this week with a new video streaming platform, Vimeo. And looks like it's working well. Yeah, there are a few little differences, but Vimeo and Livestream are actually the same company. But they're different platforms, and for various reasons we're using Vimeo now, and we're glad you've found your way. I see a number of you have. And we're still, if you're on Facebook Live with us, we're still there too. And all I would have to say about that is that the picture quality and probably the sound might be just a little bit sweeter if you do go to Vimeo directly. Facebook is wonderful, and it's such a delight that we can reach so many people through Facebook Live. But the pictures just a little bit less quality, so just a hint. But if you have questions about the spiritual journey, about your path, about things you're experiencing or wondering about, you can type it in the chat here on Vimeo Live, as I see Biddy has, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. And if you're on Facebook Live, you can just type it there in the comment box. And that's sort of what makes the satsangs go round, except the blessings. This beautiful presence and energy. The presence itself is the presence of the divine, of the infinite divine source. And virtually everyone can feel it if you just allow yourself. And that's the main reason that we do gather together, is that beautiful presence that you're feeling now. But
something you said during the intro about, feel the power of the flowering heart blessing, and for a moment, like, it struck me, the word power, and what a beautiful world this will be when we are flowering in our hearts in unconditional love and compassion, and that power isn't associated with control or greed or ego or the mind or I'm better than you, competition, conflict, violence. It would be really, really a beautiful world if power was coming from the unconditional love and compassion of the flowered heart. So that's where we're headed, folks. And keep up the blessings.
We sure are. And, okay. There's something else I was going to share, and maybe it'll come back to me. But we do have some questions And, oh yeah, that's it. That your job, other than to just be here and show up, which is enough, actually, that we can just come together and share the presence like this, even if you remain in silence and anonymity. But if you share, if you would try to make it your job, your project, to bring a question each week. We've all got questions, and if you would share yours, it catalyzes inspiration from the divine that will help everyone here. And so please do that. That would just be wonderful. I think we're still all here, aren't we? Okay. Let me just pull up Bridget's questions. Okay. Back up. Ooh, there are several. Okay. All right. So, Biddy, good to see you here. Glad you made it. You're right, you've been experiencing some conflicting thoughts about thy will, not mine, be done, and the setting of intentions, having goals, etc. They are in direct opposition to each other as a way of living one's life, surely, totally opposite. I mean goals, yeah, I got that, goalless. I wasn't sure if we were talking about, never mind. Yeah, so I have had difficulty setting goals and having clear intentions all my life. What do you think? Well, okay, we'll come into that next question. Let's start here. You're clearly talking here about where Christ, in the Garden of Gethsemane, on his way almost to the cross, the night before he went to the cross, he entered into deep prayer and communion with his heavenly Father. And he said, "Let this hour pass from me. I don't want to go to the cross. Nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done." Now, some people have pointed to that moment to say Christ was not in divine union. Because if he was in divine union, he'd have no personal will at all. Well, that's not actually the way it is. He had a human nature, and in his divine nature, in his essence, he was totally one with the divine. He had already reconciled himself to going to the cross years before it happened. He knew it's what his whole life was about, was that moment. But he was sharing with all of us that there's something in us that doesn't want to do some of that stuff, the hard things that require tremendous self-sacrifice. In his case, his own physical life. And so he was acknowledging openly that in his human nature, there was a will that wasn't always in harmony with the divine will. Now this becomes important when we talk about manifestation, the laws of manifestation, and setting intentions, and asking for divine grace and divine power to manifest for us miraculously our visions, our goals, and our intentions. And if you learn about the laws of manifestation, how to visualize a thing very clearly, how to speak it forth and affirm it positively, how to believe in advance you've received it and enter into gratitude, manifestation is not very hard because we are divine beings. As Susanna and I like to say, we are sovereign, which is a way of saying autonomous, self-governing. We are autonomous or sovereign, sentient, divine beings. And we have the power to manifest. Anything is possible. Okay, but what we discover when we try to get the divine energy to flow through our intentions, that it's important that our will be in oneness with the divine will. Now there is a point, yes, where you're so dissolved in the divine that all of your intentions, all of your efforts are the divine itself. But for most of us, in the state that we're in, we have our own desires and intentions, and the divine might have a better idea or a different idea. And so it's important to take time to discern and discover what the will of the divine is. And then we can pray, "Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Or, "Thy will be done on Karma Bhumi as it is in Satyaloka." I mean, you can look at it from any tradition. But if you're asking the higher celestial and divine energies to flow with your creative efforts, it's important that your creative efforts be in harmony with the intentions of the higher celestial and divine levels of consciousness. And so this is a very important thing. And no, it's not always in opposition, thank goodness. And you've hit on something. It's important to take time before you launch into a large creative endeavor to make sure you're not wasting your time and that you're actually going to have the energies of the universe behind you in this. So for instance, if you decide today that you'd like to become the tyrannical ruler of the world and bring everyone under your thumb and control them, you're not going to get any cooperation from the divine. I mean, it's not in harmony. But if you get to know the divine and the divine plan, if you will, you'll discover that the divine, whether we're talking about Buddha, or whether we're talking about Vishnu, or whether we're talking about the Christ, all of these avatars who are human manifestations of the divine have shown us that the divine source wants us to be free from suffering and wants us to live in joy and be happy and be at peace. Happy people will make a happy world. It's very simple. And so the divine, in wanting to bring healing to us and to our world, wants us to be free from suffering and to be happy. So if that's your goal, you're going to find the divine is going to work with you. And if your goal is to help release other people from suffering, as opposed to maybe using other people as things you could exploit to try to get something from them, if your goal is lining up with the intent of the divine, that we have compassion and unconditional love toward others and work for their liberation, we're going to have tremendous power behind our efforts. So you've hit on something important.
Yeah. It's also important that you continue on your spiritual journey and use the tools that you've learned, because we're our biggest obstacle from actually hearing what the divine is saying within us and help guide us with the decisions that we want to make in life. And the more clarity and connection we have with that divine within, and the more we've done our inner work with the charges and the programs that are blocking us from receiving that clear guidance, that's where the ripple effect starts to take place. Then you are actually able to hear the divine will over your own personal ego or sense of separate self that's trying to maybe manifest some things that might not be for your higher good or for the good of all.
Yeah. So I'm going to come back to Yekarina's question in a minute, but Biddy continues, because I asked Jesus in over 50 years ago and asked him to guide my life, but I didn't quite know how to follow through. I've lived my life intuitively and I guess in surrendered fashion to some extent. Now I have a different perspective with the awakening, as Biddy's experiencing awakening herself. And it seems that surrendering completely would be advisable, but egoic desires creep in. So there's a seesaw happening between completely surrendering to thy will, not mine, and having some ego-driven issues trying to control things. Tricky place to be in. I have two Michael voices going on. Okay, that's like the ones in your head. The one saying, thy will be done, and the other one saying, my will be done. Okay, now, okay, now finally hear the one voice only. Hooray, well, you hit on something. Let me just say that there's the voice of the mind, and actually the mind has many voices, and the mind is not yours. The mind is a phenomenon that we all share in, and we share all the same thoughts in different forms. And then there's your heart. The divine is communicating to you intuitively. You said you asked Jesus in but didn't know how to follow through. Well, that's the thing with following any form of the divine. How do you follow through? Well, you get out of your head and into your heart. You invoke the divine within, or connect with the inner divine, and you ask it for guidance, and you allow yourself to be guided intuitively. When you're being guided by your heart, there's peace, there's calm, there's clarity. Every time you bounce up into the mind, there is conflict. So the very conflict that you've described between what you want and what you think the divine wants, that whole argument and seesaw is taking place in the mind. So through meditation, through simply, as you become more and more awake and just taking an intent, you step right out of the mind into what is, into the heart, and there's calm, clear, intuitive guidance. The direction of your divine doesn't usually come for most people as like neon letters written across the sky. I wish. Or a voice speaking to you, hi, this is Jesus. I want you to know, here, take a pencil and write this down. Now, it does come that way for some people. And when we encounter folks like that, well, comparison always causes suffering. And we go, oh, I wish I was so gifted that the Lord talked to me that way. Well, remember, to whom much is given, more is expected. And most of us should just be happy to be guided by the intuitive leading of the presence in our hearts. It's very reliable, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say too, that's a beautiful sign of awakening, because as we awaken, we start to actually see what the ego is doing, whereas before awakening, we're just reacting to life circumstances and situations. And so, that is, when you start to see that in yourself, and you start to see, oh, my ego wants this, but my heart, that's probably not in alignment with my heart, that's where the journey can begin, because you can't do anything about the ego and the separate self unless you actually see the games that it's playing and the tricks that it's wreaking havoc in your life. So that's actually a good symptom of the journey of awakening. And we can start to get more into our hearts when we can call our mind and our egos on their funny, silly, destructive, obnoxious things that it does.
So, Yekaterina left out the T. Yekaterina, sorry. You left out the T. Asks, what do you think about oracles and predictions and tarot card spreads? Is the future already planned for us like a destiny that can be read? Yes and no. A lot of likely outcomes, well, in fact, all possible outcomes are probably recorded in the Akashic records. But here's your life, where you are now, and here's like 8,000 possible outcomes. Destiny is not written in stone. It can be changed. The timeline is fluid from this moment forward, depending on the actions you take, and various things that you might do or not do. It would look like a tree, or like the veins going out, or the branches of a tree. There's not just one path going into the future that's predetermined. There are all these possible alternative streams. And so one of the things that I think that divination, oracles and predictions and tarot spreads is not real useful for is predicting the future and then surrendering to some destiny that someone else tells you, or cards in front of you tell you, here's your destiny, you might as well just not even try to change it. That's the way the future's going to be. So divination is not such a great tool for predicting the future, even though it may work sometimes. But what it's really helpful for, things like the tarot can be very useful, things like the I Ching, things like angel cards, and they can help you intuit what's happening right now in your life, and the changes that are afoot, and the movements that are taking place in your life, and how you might respond to them. So I love the tarot, but I focus primarily, if I look at the tarot, on the 22 major arcana, which are the major cards that are doorways of initiation. Those cards are describing aspects of the spiritual path leading to enlightenment. And it can be very helpful to show you the obstacles you're dealing with here and now. But then when you start to use the tarot to try to read the future, some handsome man with dark hair is going to come into your life and sweep you off your feet. I really recommend against that. My understanding is that the divine encourages us to develop our own intuitive faculties and to be led by the presence, by the spirit of the divine itself. So divination can help us tune into that, and then we let go of those tools, just like training wheels on a bicycle. It helped you learn to ride the bike. Now you're riding, let go of the training wheels, look ma, no hands, and you surrender to the divine to guide you. So some traditions encourage oracles, that you should live your life according to oracles. Others say you should stay away from them completely. But even the Jewish tradition, which condemned the use of oracles in the ancient Hebrew tradition, actually gave the Jewish people a specific oracle for them, using 12 stones, the Urim and the Thummim, which the priesthood used to divine directions from God. And looking at history, I'm not sure how well they did. I'm not sure how well any of us have done trying to figure out what God was saying by the flip of a coin, or the tossing of stones, or shells, or bones, or cards. But I know many of us have developed amazing intuitive faculties, and the sensitivity and the grace to be able to be led by the divine itself through having played with those tools.
It's also important to remember discernment, because whenever, if people go to psychics, mediums, readers of tarot or other divination tools, there's a great deal of trust and discernment that needs to be happening in that setting. If you're not doing the oracles or divination yourself, and even then we have to watch ourselves, because the ego wants things to turn out a certain way, and that may not be in divine will, like we were talking about before. But you're putting trust and faith in somebody else's perception of you and your life circumstances. So just make sure you use discernment. I went to a psychic when I was in my early 20s. I was graduating from college and trying to decide what city I wanted to move to. And I narrowed it down to 2. And when I told her that I was thinking about moving there, she looked into it and she gave me this just deadly warning. Don't go there. You have incredible karma there, and it's going to ruin your life and be a complete disaster. That is the worst thing. And the boyfriend you're planning on moving with, no, very dark, and that's not the right thing for you. I'm glad I didn't listen to her, because I had a great time living there for 10 years and had wonderful experiences. And so I was glad I used my own discernment instead of putting my whole life into the hands of somebody who was seeing things from a perspective that maybe I needed to learn those, karmic lessons or whatever to make my life open up and grow even more and deepen in the experiences that from her perspective may have been horrible. So always use spiritual discernment. That's very important.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Okay. Well, are there any other questions? I'm missing some I'm not seeing some of our friends from Venezuela, and maybe you're there, but I know this is a new format, but go ahead and find your way in so you can join us in the chat. It may be that you have to sign in to make that happen, especially the first time. Everybody's got the same little smiley face next to their name. If you complete a profile on Vimeo, we'll have the picture of your choosing, just like you used to have on live stream. So, all right.
Okay, I'm ready to dive in.
Very good. Yes, let me just check over here one more time. Bonnie. Yes. Mm-hmm. Alrighty. So slow. Okie dokie.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to work on that. Okay. So, if you would now, just leave your palms open and turned upward on your thighs or your lap somewhere, and close your eyes. Take a few long, slow, deep breaths.
Thank you, Angelica Schaefer, for your beautiful music.
Okay, back to...
Sorry. I was listening to it very deeply at the beginning, and I'd like to put a quick thank you for Angelica for letting us use her music.
Okay.
Okay.
So please take a few deep breaths and settle into your heart and connect with the inner divine. And if there's not a way that you normally would do that, then just ask the divine presence within you to flood you with grace. Deep within the center of your being, at the center of your heart, is the fullness of the divine source itself. This divine source is all powerful and all loving, all wise, all knowing, and all about you. This expression of the divine that dwells in the center of your heart yearns to free you from suffering, to flood you with joy and peace, to awaken you to the truth that you are one with this infinite being already. That in your true nature you are already awakened and God realized. It's not a matter of something coming to live in you that isn't already there, or something happening in you that isn't already happening. It's a matter of seeing it, feeling it, and experiencing the reality of your oneness with the divine, of your awakened nature. So you could ask this divine being that is all-powerful and all-knowing and loves you exactly as you are, more than you can possibly imagine. Let's invite this divine being to free you from suffering, to heal you, to awaken you to the truth, to cause your spiritual heart to flower with unconditional love and radiant light, to shine out of the center of your heart and flood your whole being, spirit, soul, and body to fill you with transforming grace, to shine through your human vessel like a light in the world, to touch the lives of others, to heal them, to catalyze and initiate awakening and the flowering of the heart in them. Ask and then simply receive. Stop struggling, relax, and let go. And this amazing divine presence will spontaneously draw you into the center of itself. Just say yes and let go. Whatever burden you're carrying, give it to the divine. Just let go. And feel this amazing presence flooding that thing, bringing healing and transformation. Now, with your eyes still closed, stretch your hands forth in front of you with your palms open and ask the divine to pour the flowering heart blessing through you to all of the others in this satsang tonight. Also, if you know of someone or someone's with a particular need in their lives, you can visualize them before you. It's not something you do or need to know how to do. Just take an intent and invite the divine to pour the flowering heart blessing through you, and the divine does it. Just feel it. now, whenever you're ready, you can just rest your hands again in your lap and open your eyes whenever you're ready and begin to make direct eye contact with Suzanne and or me. And we're going to begin to share with you the open eye light meditation. In this meditation, we don't do anything, but the divine just overtakes and overshadows me and Suzanne and begins to pour through us, through every pore of our being. Oceans of grace and unconditional love and light, especially through our eyes. As you keep looking into our eyes, that light shines in through your eyes, into your heart, dissolving all the blocks to the flowering of your heart and awakening and igniting the divine energies of unconditional love within you. Simply relax, let go, and allow whatever happens to happen. close your eyes now for a few moments. And meditate as the grace settles and integrates in you. You could continue to meditate now with your eyes closed as long as it feels good to you. Or lie down nearby on your back with your eyes closed in Shavasana. That's to lie on your back with your arms loosely at your sides, your palms open, turned skyward, and just surrender and dissolve in gratitude in the presence. We love you very much.
Love you very much.
It's such a joy to gather with you on these Monday evenings, and we thank you for consenting to your own transformation. We love you.
Much love, light, and blessings.
Namaste, which means the divine in us acknowledges and bows to the divine in you. Love you so much.